Now we're ready. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We're so excited that you're here today. We're just going to wait just a couple of moments as you're making your way into the Zoom room. And as you're making your way through, we would love to know from where you are coming today. So if you would like to utilize the chat, whether you're on your phone, your tablet, your laptop, your desktop, wherever you are, we would love to hear from you. Excellent, excellent. Wonderful. And I'm going to try to keep up. You all are going fast and furious, which is great. We have Rhode Island, New Jersey, Nepal, New York City. I see that pride. Boston, Brooklyn, Pakistan, Arlington, Mass, Canton, Mass, India, Nicaragua, Vermont. Oh, I see you. Palisades, New York. New York is representing in this group. I love it. I love it. Pennsylvania, Kenya, Ghana, Danvers, Mass, New Jersey. We see you. Cape Cod, Mass, Austin, Texas, we see you. Florida, California, Turkey, Istanbul, Davidson, North Carolina, a lot of New York City, San Francisco, Seattle, Cumming, Georgia. All right, Metro Atlanta, we see you. Charlottesville, Virginia, Cameroon, Potomac, Maryland, Ethiopia, Rhode Island, upstate New York, Queens, Charlotte, New Hampshire, Buenos Aires, Long Island, New York State, Toronto, Rwanda, more upstate. This is wonderful. Uzbekistan, Cameroon, Nashville, Arlington, Shanghai, Corpus Christi, Texas, Mongolia, Cleveland, Columbia, South Carolina, Brazil, Ethiopia, Morocco, Seoul. We see you. We see you. And we also see you all who are making your way in. We're just wanting to greet you all. We see you, England, Montana. Wonderful, wonderful. Oh, we're so, so excited that you decided to spend your evening, your morning, your afternoon with us. Wherever you all are in the world, we appreciate your taking the time. I will also like to address those who are making their way to us via recording. We're also super excited that you're spending your time to get to learn from us retroactively as well. And with that in mind, yes, we are recording today's session with our fabulous panel of faculty members who are representing some really neat and cool areas. And I want to share with you all as we make our way through to this evening's program that we're not going to cover all 40 plus majors and minors at Skidmore, but our ultimate goal is to ensure that you have a slice, an insight into the way in which we support our students throughout their academic journey. We want to hear from you as well. And so at this particular time, I'm going to close off the chat and ask for you all to transition over to our Q&A, where we would love to hear your questions. I am also joined today, and we are also joined today by two fabulous admissions team members in the background, Sarah Ireland and Matt Cohen, who will also be able to support you with your questions. Please reach out to us. We definitely want to hear from you. I would also share with you all today that we do have an additional virtual panel of faculty in 2 weeks on Tuesday, February the 17th, 2026 at the same time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, with a different group of faculty. So if you want to join us for all of our showcases, we would love to have you there. We encourage you to bring your questions as well. And if for some reason there is not a question that we're not able to answer at this time, please refer to our panelists directly, which we will be sharing their information, or just email us here in undergraduate admissions at admissions@skidmore.edu, and we will do our best to connect you as much as possible. So For those of you who I've never met, my name is Janessa Dunn. I'm Director of Admissions here at Skidmore. I am so pleased to see so many of you all join us today. I will share with you, I know that we have some newly enrolled students from the class of 2030 here in this group, so congratulations again. We're really excited to see you in August, September to welcome you to the Skidmore community officially. We also know that some of you and many of you are still awaiting your admissions decision. And so, as a reminder, our early decision to admissions decision release is this Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We want you to make sure that you're checking your applicant portal to ensure that you have everything that you need. And regular decision will be released in mid-March. If you have any questions about those areas, please feel free to email us in admissions, and we're happy to support you. So I have all of those housekeeping pieces all together, and I want to do my best not to talk as much. At this point in time, I would love to introduce you to four fabulous colleagues who will be able to share a little bit about themselves, particularly how they landed here at Skidmore, their academic area of interest, but also perhaps something that they're most excited to engage with you about today. So I will pass it on over to Professor Violeta Lorenzo, who can start us off.
Hi, I'm Professor Violeta Lorenzo. I am in the Spanish section of the World Languages and Literatures program here at Skidmore College. I have worked at Skidmore for a total of 4 years now. First, I was a visiting assistant professor several years ago. Then I had a job somewhere else, and I recently came back, and I'm very excited to be here. It is a wonderful experience. Particularly everything we offer in the World Languages department. I can speak for Spanish, but you can also explore many others like French, German, Italian, Chinese, Japanese, and many clubs and activities in which students can engage in order to polish their language skills and their intercultural competency.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Professor Violeta. Professor Javier, do you mind sharing some more about yourself today?
Uh, yes, once I get the audio going. I'm Javier Perez Moreno. I teach physics. I'm an associate professor at the Department of Physics. I've been at Skidmore for 15 years. And actually, before I arrived to Skidmore, I didn't even know what liberal arts college was. And I came as an associate, as a visiting assistant professor too. After, on my first year, one of the students looked at me and she said, you came to the right place because, this is what liberal arts is all about, that contact with the students. And yes, I have interacted with a lot of the students and see them going to do many good, interesting things.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. Dr. Owens, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, hi. Thank you all for being here. I am Tammy C. Owens. I am from Mississippi. I have degrees in gender studies, American studies, and social work, all degrees that one can get here at Skidmore. I'm currently the director of gender studies, and I'm also a professor in American studies. I'm teaching a course on Beyonce right now that I very much enjoy. And I'm also teaching a feminist theory course. My research is on the history of race in American childhood, and I also study a history of feminist theory in the US. So I got to Skidmore in 2020 with a 2-month-old baby. And so things were fun and interesting. But I mentioned that because Skidmore has been the most supportive community for me and my family. So it is a place where all the different parts of me get to exist and thrive in this space. Intellectual, professional, you make great friends and relationships here. And also everyone knows my family here as well in my respective departments. So it's nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Dr. Owens, and shout out for Mississippi, Alabama, right here. I see you. I see you. And last but certainly not least, Professor Leah Ball.
Hi, I'm in the chemistry department here at Skidmore. This is my 10th year on the faculty, and I'm currently the chair of chemistry. So if you have questions about the chemistry department more generally, I'm happy to answer those. My work, my research, which I know one student already or prospective student already asked about research opportunities at Skidmore. So my research is on computational biophysics. So it's very interdisciplinary. And that's one of the reasons that I was drawn to Skidmore to teach at Skidmore, actually, is because I feel that Skidmore really embraces interdisciplinarity. So I, for example, have a research group right now made up of entirely undergraduate students. And I have students in my lab who are majoring in chemistry and biochemistry, but also in physics, math, computer science, neuroscience. In the past, I've had biology students. So it's a very interdisciplinary lab. And I get to learn something new from them a lot as well because my background is in physics and biophysics and now chemistry, but they come with all sorts of other skills and things as well. So that's one of the things that I love about teaching at Skidmore.
Thank you so much for sharing. And also shout out to chemistry. I was a chemistry major in college myself, so it's lovely, love to see the interdisciplinary nature of the STEM subjects at Skidmore. So I know that we have so many students here who have various interests, and perhaps one of the reasons why they're attracted to Skidmore is because of the flexibility of the curriculum, being a liberal arts college. And we're going to also have students who are still being introduced into the liberal arts college. What does it actually mean? What does that ethos mean? And so, as we think about that, can you all share a little bit based on your experiences, why the liberal arts and why Skidmore? Just to start us off.
I can start if that's okay. I touched on it a little bit, but one of the things that I think is really neat about Skidmore for students that come here is that usually they're passionate about more than one thing. So I've had students that are really into biochemistry, but also are amazing dancers in my lab or in my courses, or lacrosse players or studio artists. So there's always an opportunity to explore multiple different passions. And really, you're just limited by the hours in the day, I think. But that's really fun to see the many different things that students get involved with at Skidmore. And then the other one that I would say was already touched on a little bit as well, but that the close interactions that students and faculty are able to have at Skidmore. So in our courses, often we have small class sizes where we're really able to get to know our students really well in the lab, in particular in my field. And then also in our mentoring of research students, which can start in your first year at Skidmore. And we do that in the summers as well. So that's the other aspect that I think is really unique to a college like Skidmore.
Yeah, and I'll add, if that's okay, to what Leah just said. Adding to that, because we are invested in students being able to thrive and enjoy their interdisciplinarity pretty much without limits, as Leah just said. We know how to cultivate that type of environment for you and help you and advise you. It's pretty routine for our students to double major, and some even double major and double minor. There are students in gender studies who are also, full theater majors or full education, social work, sociology. So this is unlike a lot of schools that are not small liberal arts, where students feel like very overwhelmed if they are carrying multiple degrees and maybe even just one degree in a minor. Here, we have cultivated that type of community. So you're working with advisors who expect from day one to be able to advise you to nurture all of the different interests that you have and however many degrees and minors you want before you come out of here without you feeling as though you can enjoy college. And I think that's also like adding to Leah's comments, that's also the thing that's really unique about a Skidmore, a small liberal arts college, is we know how to help you support and do as many fields as you want to, do them well. Thanks, Leah.
I would add that you can explore your interests in different disciplines, but also that generally speaking, as a culture, as a society, our world is facing so many challenges that are interdisciplinary in nature, and maybe just one very specific narrow discipline is not going to help address them. So that type of education that allows you to be well-rounded and connect knowledges that you might learn in your science classes with the information you learn in your humanities classes is going to be very useful for contextualizing issues that you will deal with professionally, but also personally. Also, the smaller classes are very important, particularly in my field. If you're trying to learn a foreign language, the if you have a small class, you can get more individual attention, and you can also get to know your classmates really well and practice outside of class, which is something that when you have huge language classes, you can't really get that experience. And here you can have that opportunity.
And if I might add to, I can talk about our alumni, like alumni that comes back to Skidmore and tell us about their experience. They always make the point, say, when we go out and we can connect the dots because we have this holistic way of learning that immediately is recognized. There are other people that might be very skilled at doing one thing, but it's like we have a much global, approach, and that seems to be like a thing that gets them usually like in a good position. I think also the culture. I mean, like the example that I'm going to use in physics or through other disciplines. It doesn't need to be through physics, but it's possible to do what is called the dual engineering degree, where you do 3 years so that Skidmore and 2 years at one engineering institution. So of course, in physics, we get a lot of students, and on the first year, it's like, I want to do the dual engineering degree. And they tell you, I want to do 3 years at a Skidmore, and then 2 years I'll go to, and then my last 2 years I'll go to the engineering program. They always tell you that on the first year, but by the second year, they're like, I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to do 2 years here, 1 year in the engineering, and then the fourth year here so I can graduate with my friends and like, I think that's one sign. It's not us telling, no, it's like they actually like change their mind because they do find that community. And I think that's something that at least, the students that I relate with are happy about the Skidmore. It's easy to find a community where you feel like you belong, and that's not a very common feeling for most people.
Oh, I'm so glad that you talked about that, Javier, as it relates to the 3+2 program, because I immediately heard about that. I think it was the Dartmouth program where we've had students who make their way here and then wanting to graduate with the Skidmore cohort as a group because of that community in many different ways. Leah and Tammy and Violetta, you all have mentioned all of those different pieces about that holistic support. So as we think about, what students are thinking about, we have students who have choices in front of them. They may be looking at large public universities. They may be looking at medium-sized research, medium-sized liberal arts, and also other small liberal arts colleges. And I will share with you that I have studied and or worked in all types. And so I can see the value in each of those settings. And there is a distinct difference in the way that Skidmore centers on those pieces. And so can you all share examples of what's actually happening in your classroom? Dr. Owens, I am so intrigued by the Beyonce course in that way. And I also know that over the years, several of you have had the opportunity to have fun and to really enjoy that relationship with your students in the classroom. So can you share a little bit about some examples there?
Okay, I'll jump in first. I will say that the Beyonce course is full. And this is our first Beyonce course at Skidmore. We're kind of late though. There are Beyonce courses being held all around the US in different colleges and universities. But I think some of the assignments in this class, the students did a starter pack. What's a big, and if you have any social media near you, you know that starter packs are sometimes running jokes across social media, but they're also helpful sometimes as well. And so rather than, there's sort of a flow to a college course where you have to teach students the foundation and some of the context because Beyonce as an icon didn't emerge in a vacuum. There were people who came before Beyonce. And so rather than just teach students like, here's this person and this performer and this performer. Students were able to, like, I gave each student a folder during I think maybe the second week of class. I gave everyone a folder and they had a name. Everyone had different names and they had to go and find information on this foundational figure to build connections to how do we get from this type of figure, performer, to now an icon in Beyonce. And what we did, and that's sort of one of the hallmarks of liberal arts colleges. Rather than stand and lecture at you, we work with you. Our assignments are designed to always give you hands-on skills and teach you how to have effective conversations and pose effective questions with people and do deep analysis. And so, what those students did very early with those starter packs was go out on their own and find out who these foundational figures are rather than listen to me run down a list. They got to develop their own bios for these people. And then we came back and had a gallery walk in class where everyone got a chance to walk around and get to know the figures that their other community members had researched in the starter packs that they put together. And so assignments like that, rather than the usual sort of you go write a paper and come back, things where we interact and we actually do something with the work that you do in class. So assignments like that. In other classes, my feminist theory course, students write an op-ed because as Professor Lorenzo said prior to, students are concerned. You're human beings who are watching the world happen around you. And I don't want you to feel, and none of us want you to feel a Skidmore that the world is just happening to you and you have no voice or no control. Excuse me, at the Small Liberal Arts College, we want you to find that voice and put it in the world in the way that you want to. And so we do an op-ed assignment where students get to use the skills from the course and write about any topic that they want. And they share that with each other. They talk through it. We teach you how to support each other in the community and engage and empower each other in the classroom space so that you can have joy as you learn as well and enjoy, as I mean, enjoy what you're doing in the classroom space. So those are some of the assignments that we do, and those assignments teach you skills on how to engage effectively, critically think, deep analysis, all of those things while getting hands-on real world experiences and doing research on topics that you care about.
I'll jump in next. It's really interesting because the class I'm teaching right now is very different from what Dr. Owens is teaching, but I feel like there's commonalities there. I'm teaching a course called Experimental Biochemistry Laboratory, and this is a course that upper level biochemistry students take, and it is designed to be a course that is a mini research experience for students in one semester. And so students, whoever's teaching the course designs it to be synergistic with their own research topic. So students in my course are learning how to do computational biophysics. So they're learning how to do the basics of programming, run a computer simulation to study some protein interactions that are important for cellular function, but they're also developing their own research question that is actually related to the things that my lab is asking, and that the NSF has funded my lab to investigate. They're interacting with my collaborators who are at institutions. One of my collaborators is at the University of Liverpool, so international collaboration. And they're learning how to write scientifically in the course as well. So they're developing their research plan. They're reading the scientific literature to develop their hypothesis. They're working together in class in our computer lab in our new CIS building to run those simulations and analyze their data. And by the end of the semester, they'll have a research paper and be presenting it to our collaborators and have a new result that my research lab will be able to then build off of to be able to publish a scientific paper in the future. So it's really like it's one of my favorite classes to teach because it's very hands-on experience of what it's really like to do science in the real world, and gives a lot of opportunities to learn skills that it's typically harder to learn in a classroom environment. But in this class, we have the ability to do that. And so I also noticed that one question was about interaction with professors outside of the classroom. And this is an example of a course where students usually engage with me a lot outside of the classroom to ask questions. And I would say in general, even in the introductory chemistry classes that we're teaching, a lot of what we get to do is interact with students outside of the classroom. And so that's one of my favorite parts of interacting with students, is being able to have those one-on-one interactions, be available during office hours, and even explore topics that aren't directly related to class, but that a student might bring up, just come to my office to ask something about and get my perspective on. So, yeah.
So maybe I'll chime in. Oh, no, Violeta, you were gonna go.
Okay. So this semester I am teaching language class, intermediate Spanish, and I think the most rewarding thing that has been happening already is that students are able to have short conversations among themselves and also with me. In my language classes, there is an aspect that it's a little bit more mechanic, kind of like going through some grammar structures, but we follow a communicative approach that we want you to start using that language right away and use it in a meaningful way. So it starts by talking about something personal that is important to you, but also it allows me to show aspects from the cultures whose language you're studying, whether it be Spain or the different parts of Hispanic America, or US Latinos within the United States, to talk about their cultural production. So this semester, we've been looking at a lot of paintings by important Hispanic artists. And the students are already, even though it's like the fourth week of classes, using the language that they're learning to talk about those paintings in a meaningful way, and in a way that connects with the art, but also with the culture and the language itself. And then the other classes that I teach are more culture and literature based, also film, mainly Latin American and Caribbean, and also US Latino purposes. We are working this semester on having students read some controversial pieces that have been written about the Hispanic communities in the United States. But each student is going to be writing their reply to those crucial texts that some of them were written a while ago, but are still important in the way people conceive, for better or worse, what the Hispanic or Latino community is in the United States. So they're going to use the information that we have been learning throughout the semester to write their answer, their response, or their version of what those kind of like canonical texts have become, and what are the new ideas that need to be taken into account when we address these communities and these populations in the United States. A class I taught last semester, I comment this briefly because it worked out. The projects were just amazing. I taught a class on Hispanic Caribbean literature and film, Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic. And yes, we had a unit on Bad Bunny. It was part of the class. But each student got to pick their research topic and do a presentation in class in Spanish based on what they're interested in. So I have a student that is working in environmental studies and Spanish, and he did this great presentation about urban farms in Cuba and how they have been using that as a way to counteract some of the food scarcity that they've been facing throughout the year. So it was a wonderful way of connecting what they learn in the class with their Spanish skills, with their other major, in order to present information that they're interested in and that it's interdisciplinary in nature.
Okay, so before I mean, actually, I wanted to address like a lot of people have been asking about the clubs at Skidmore. They're very active. There are more than 100, and I think this illustrates the connection between faculty and students. Today, I have one student from the physics club stopping at my office. We want to like organize a movie. Which day works for you? What time is it? Are you going to be able to come? They did it like also like 2 years ago. They organized the whole thing, and this year they actually want to like they picked a film that will actually like touch different areas. Uh, I teach the introductory physics. I mean, I teach most physics courses, but the introductory physics courses, this I think is a big difference between any other environment that is not a small liberal art college. I also had to say I grew up in Spain, so that's where I studied. For me, like there's a very big difference from when I studied in Spain. I felt that getting a degree was like an obstacle career. Like they were always like putting obstacles in front of you, and if you were able to survive, you'll get your degree. While at Skidmore is about like, oh, you have potential. We're here to empower you. You have potential. It's like we want to empower you to like achieve the most that you can, and I think that that's like a huge difference. Any other institution I have been, and I also have been at big universities, when you teach physics, you separate lecture versus lab. And that always feels very disjoint because you have typically two different people. One person is like teaching the lecture, another person is doing the labs. And sometimes, like for example, when I was in Spain, the labs had nothing to do with what we were doing in class. At Skidmore in physics, we have what is called Studio Lab, kind of like borrowed from the arts area, where it's all integrated. We meet for, instead of an hour of lecture, and no, we meet for 1 hour and 40 minutes, 3 days a week. And as I see fit, and it's in my, syllables, the plan, and I see fit, then we do labs, but we also have a lot of short activities. The way that students work in my class is that they prepare ahead of time. They have materials to read. We have reading quizzes. Then we have very little time to very little lecture. And the rest of the time is spent working together on problems, either on whiteboards. Another thing I found out is like, especially you're teaching a class after lunch, you want them to stand up. So if you actually visit this semester and visit my class, you'll see my students on the blackboard writing, like equations or like, discussing with each other. But of course, this is what pedagogically we know helps the learning the best. I also was teaching quantum last semester, the first year of the upper level undergrad quantum mechanics, and it was really cool because then the Nobel Prize came about like the quantum mechanics, and we were just talking about tunneling in class, and then the Nobel Prize is about tunneling. So you get that the students get very, very excited about all the topics, and they're able to connect them. And lastly, I pretty much every semester I do an independent study. A student approaches me and it's like, I would like to like dwell or like get into this one topic in more detail. Last year, actually, last fall, I had one student who had taken quantum mechanics the year before and wanted to do advanced quantum mechanics. And then when you do independent studies, I'm just your guide. I guide you, but you take ownership of that learning, and which is again how you guys learn. That was also like a really, really great experience. Like by the time we were finishing and we're looking at the really exciting parts of quantum mechanics, like Bell theorem, my student was like, why is this not like everybody should know this? And in fact, like I have students visiting me the day after to tell me, please, can you explain this to me? Because Angel came home and he was so excited about what he was just like, that I think is a experience I couldn't have when I was in my undergrad in Spain. I will be lucky if I was able to talk with a professor. Most of the times you will end up talking with the TA, who is somebody who is very busy and doesn't have time for you.
Just listening to the four of you, I almost really want to go back to college. But two, I think the biggest piece is the level of care, the care and the attention, and not only pedagogically, but also thinking about what a student is experiencing as it relates to their own interest. And all of you articulated so beautifully. And Professor Lorenzo, thank you for sharing the example of students utilizing something that is a passion to them and how to communicate that as it relates to their major as well. So at this time, we have so many questions that are in the Q&A, and I know folks are typing away in the background, and we have some tailored questions that are addressed to specifically to you all. But I am going to bring some themes together. There are lots of questions here about the role of mentorship in life after Skidmore. So I'm curious to know from each of you, can you share a little bit about perhaps an example of a student who you remember very fondly in that way as it relates to their journey at Skidmore? But also, can you talk a little bit more about the senior coda? I'm not quite sure our students quite know what that means.
Okay, so I'm going to go first this time. Uh, my first my first advisee, physics advisee, uh, when he graduated, I actually look at this because I was thinking about things that are not necessarily science. He works for a company. I don't know what the name is, but basically they're angel investors. You come to them with a project, and it doesn't need to be a project about science. And if they think that they're going to make money by investing in your project, they will, invest the money. He was originally from New York City, and he went back to New York City. That's where he's working. We still chat, from time to time. I also had one student that is working now in SpaceX. Another student that was my advisee when, did code physics, but is working for Amazon, I believe. So it's fantastic experience when you have a student that you have been interacting since year one. Some of them you actually have been doing research since year one, and then they go into do all these, for me, kind of like amazing things. Working on SpaceX, the student came to give a talk and to our students, and they were so incredibly excited. I think it's a very little known on how big of our alumni are in terms of achievements. Like they go to really, really great places.
I can talk. So my experience here has been a little bit different because I was here first as a visiting assistant professor a while back for 3 years, and then I left, and now I recently came back. But during my first 3 years, I had a student who was doing psychology and a Spanish minor, and she came for me for all the advising related to the Spanish aspect of it. And her story is very interesting because college is also a time of self-discovery. When she started, she really thought she was interested in a career in the health field. And as she took her classes over here, she became to realize that that wasn't really a priority for her. She was interested in something else. So currently, she is in the law field, working with legal aspects within communities in New York City that are struggling because of their immigration status. So that's a nice story, that she really thought that her career path was one, but then as she started taking classes, discovered that there were other interests and she pursued something different, but is very happy with how things turned out.
I'll answer the second part of the question briefly, around the senior coda. The class that I'm teaching right now that I described earlier is actually one of the ways that students can one of the things that students can do to help complete the senior coda. So the coda is an experience that students have in their senior year. It doesn't have to be in their major, so that's important to note. But it will be a course that's a culminating experience that will bring together multiple things that they've learned in multiple courses throughout their time at Skidmore. It's going to be a creative project, so students are going to develop something new in that senior coda experience. And then there's also a reflective component to it. So I saw in the Q&A that some students were asking about, like, how does Skidmore help students think about life after Skidmore and career, and how what they've learned at Skidmore is going to be helpful in the future. And that's one of the places where students do that work and think about all of the things that all the skills that they've built, what kind of things can those be applicable to, and really reflect on their time at Skidmore and kind of bring everything together. So there's a lot of different ways that it can happen, but those are the kind of the key components to it, and I think is a nice way to think about all of those things, and really tie them together, and also be a stronger applicant for the things that you go on to do after Skidmore, because you can really talk very concretely about what you've developed. With regard to the alumni question, that's one of my favorite things about my job too, is just hearing from alumni. I've gotten a few emails in the last couple of weeks, actually, like students just checking in, updating me on their lives, which is always so fun to hear. And yeah, the great things that they've gone on to do. One of my earlier students in my time at Skidmore, I've been here long enough now that one of my students that was in my research lab actually went on and got her PhD and is now working in the pharmaceutical industry. So that's just one example. I've had students that gone on to medical school. One student just got admitted to an MD PhD program, which is super exciting. Also students that have gone on straight to work in industry, to work in clinical research, lots of different career paths, and it's always fun to hear about them. We've also had last year a student who wasn't my student, he graduated before I arrived, but he came to give a talk about how AI, he's been doing research on how AI is being used, or how to protect, I guess, against AI being used for bioweapons type of attacks. So that was a very fascinating talk, and I got to spend time with him, and our students got to learn from him. So that is always really cool to see the things that our alumni are doing.
Yeah, and I'll add that, because we're a small liberal arts college and we're deeply invested in in like cultivating those relationships with you while you're a student, we're just as invested in our network of alumni. And so it is pretty regular for our alumni to be very present in ways that in something that you'll get at larger colleges and universities. We have panels all the time that our alumni graciously and generously are a part of, where students just like you get to ask them questions. Alumni from all around the world come back often to be a part of these panels. I'm moderating one next month, as a matter of fact, right? Where they come back and they answer whatever types of questions that you want. They stay after, they listen. And part of that relationship is cultivated on the fact that because they were students who were also a part of these relationships, that the culture investing between students And professors, they sort of understand that they're always a part of this community, and thus they're a part of your community as well. And so you get to genuinely know alumni here at Skidmore because of so many of these events through the career center, but also the different departments also hold different alumni roundtables and different things so you can stay in conversation, real conversation, ask them real questions as well. And this other to speak to the other part of that, there hadn't been a summer, I don't think, yet at Skidmore where I haven't done some sort of mentorship or independent study or something around a student's interest in the summertime. And part of our communities, we fund a lot of those opportunities, faculty student summer collaborations where students, as Javier said, you get to lead around your interests, and we're there to support you, and the college supports you as well, monetarily for opportunities like that in the summertime. And so, again, that speaks to us not just wanting to have a relationship with you for 4 years or so, but teaching you how to stay a part of this community, summer, 24, year round, and we even when you leave, right? And you then become the well-established alumni who will be a part of those panels.
I love that all of you had very distinct of examples about those experiences personally, as well as through your colleagues who were not present in this conversation today. And I do want to share with you all, and I know that many of you all who are listening in are exploring your options. But in case you wanted to know a little bit more about our alumni at Skidmore, I'm just going to do a quick plug. On February 25th, we have a Creative Thought Works admissions virtual event that you may have received an email about recently, where we bring alums to talk about their experience. And this particular one is themed from passion to profession. So really thinking about that trajectory and some really sound advice, even at this stage of your exploration. But I agree, I love participating in as an audience member from our alums, and I learned so much from them. I will share with you all, just as what our wonderful panelists have mentioned, we have a robust funding opportunity for students. The Summer Research Program, which is a funded opportunity, very robust across the disciplines at Skidmore, somewhere between 8 weeks and 12 weeks typically for most students. Right now, our students are actually in the process of applying for our Summer Experience Fund. It is an opportunity to have up to $5,000 to support their summer experience, especially for students who may be pursuing professions where there may be lowly paid or unpaid internships. And so we want to support them as much as possible to cultivate their experience. And so all of those pieces, that list goes on, but the biggest piece is the wraparound support. Another theme that is coming through pretty strongly in beautiful ways are coming from our fantastic international students. And at Skidmore, about 10% of our students are citizens outside of the U.S., but we also have students who may be U.S. citizens who grew up abroad. And I will also share that about somewhere between 15 and 20% of our students who may be coming into a space where English is not their first language in that regard as well. For our panelists here, can you talk a little bit about how you support several of our students who are coming in from many parts of the world, lived experiences, and what does that mean for you, both inside and beyond the classroom?
Well, I think I have a little of an advantage because students perceive me as an international faculty. So I think since the very beginning of teaching at Skidmore, international students will approach me, and sometimes they will, ask for support on, different issues. I think probably what I do the most is that I'm always like ready to listen. People come from, with different experiences, and they know that they can come to my office and just talk. And usually I can relate to those experiences, especially if it's something like, being an international faculty and things that you still like are trying to like manage or understand. So I think that that's for me, it's been like very natural. Like indeed, like the first, he couldn't be my advisee because I was a visiting professor, but first student I wanted to be my advisee was an international student from uh I forgot I forgot the name and I don't want to monopolize the conversation. Jordan.
I'll answer the question as well. So one of the things that I think that Skidmore does to support international students is to provide research opportunities on campus in the summers. My perspective is mainly from the science students, but I think that is a big thing because other summer opportunities that students can apply for sometimes are restricted to U.S. citizens. So having the flexibility to be able to apply for that funding at Skidmore to stay on campus and get more in-depth experience in your chosen field of study during the summer is a huge thing for our international students. And then, I mean, I think the things that benefit so many of our students really benefit our international students as well, which is the small class sizes, the one-on-one interactions with faculty, and the ability that we have to really get to know our students and support them in the ways that are most applicable to what they're trying to achieve. So, yeah.
Yes, I can add to that as well. I think one of the things, in addition to all of the support that my colleagues have just discussed in the classroom, we work really hard to help students understand that the classroom is also one of those sources of empowerment, one of those really important intellectual communities for you as well, for your whole humanity in that space. And so we don't come into a classroom in a small liberal arts college and it's sort of cold and all right, let's go pull the books out. Like that's not what happens. And it's also we don't use week one of a new class to simply just take this, these are the policies, walk away. We take time to build a community, respecting that everyone in that space comes into that space with their own respective learning experiences, good and bad, your own sort of personal histories. And so part of our pedagogy or our methods of teaching in a small liberal arts college is to teach students how to support each other in a community of scholars right there in the classroom with hopes that they go out and model and hopes and expectations that they model those for other students on campus, no matter where you're from, underrepresented, different countries, how we treat you in this space. We want you to treat people well here, and we want you to carry that into the culture on campus. And so that's what we invest in the culture here at Skidmore as well. And so Sophia asked about how do we become professors. I think that is linked to how I became a professor, Sophia, is I saw what it looked like when I had a good professor who was invested in building a real community where I could not only become a more sort of authentic myself, who I want to be, serious scholar, but I could do it the way that felt natural for me. And I could also like be a generous scholar and watch other people be generous and kind to me in the community, in the educational community. And we know sometimes that's not usually important sometimes for folks in educational spaces, unfortunately. But that's how I became a professor. I saw someone who empowered me in the classroom space, that the classroom could be this really wonderful community for me. I guess I never left. I've been here all those years. So, yeah.
Um, in my case, it's similar to what Professor Perez Moreno has shared. As someone that has experience moving out of the home country to come and study in the United States, study also in Canada as well. Students tend to come and ask for for advice on how I navigated back in the day some of the challenges that they may be facing now. So listening, it's very important, just being able to listen to what students have to say in a non-judgmental way, in a safe environment. It's part of the way of supporting our international students. Also, there's so much going on everywhere all the time, but also I try to be aware of what is happening in my students' home countries to the extent that it is possible to me, because I can also learn from their countries and their cultural experiences, just in the same way that they are also learning from me about the context of Latin America and the Caribbean.
Thank you all so much for sharing all of your experiences there. And thank you so much for also bringing in some of those additional questions that have come through the chat. I know that we only have a handful of minutes left at this point in time, and there's so many questions. And I want to give a huge shout out to my colleagues, Matt and Sarah, who are answering and typing away in the background, and also for our professors here who are also typing as well. As we think about, there are a couple of appointed questions for two professors, and then we'll end off with one last question to wrap up our time. There is a question particularly for Dr. Owens as it relates to gender studies at Skidmore, and really thinking about the pedagogical nature, but also beyond the classroom in support for the LGBTQ plus community. Can you share a little bit about what that means for you in your discipline?
Thank you so much for that question as well. So, many of our students are active in the community, and we support them and we offer them the skills they need, be it the sort of practical skills of organizing, and being a thoughtful leader, one who can ask the hard questions in a way that's thoughtful for different kinds of communities that they seek to impact. We teach students, when I say how to ask the right questions in the room, we teach you how to ask questions well, to ask questions that other people may not think about, and to question everything, to be honest with you. In gender studies, we are also training students, as Professor Lorenzo said, to ask questions during times that aren't, the best of times, where students are sometimes having to go into organizations who are dealing with some pretty tough issues right now, that we can see on the nightly news. We teach you how to be the person who can ask those questions using your theoretical concepts that you've gained in the classroom, but also how to, or as I said before, how to organize. We also recognize that students will have interests that go beyond the classroom. And so that independent study also becomes really important for students who want to do other kinds of projects. We even have things like bridge courses where students get credit, college credit, and we encourage you to take classes that question things about power and different types of institutions and relationships, people's relationships to power. So we don't push students away from asking the difficult questions, be they, around hot topics like gender right now, things around race. But we teach you how to ask those questions well, how to do good research, how to publish good research, because we also work with students who publish in student journals or students who want to go to graduate school. A lot of what we do in gender studies sometimes is working with students in that senior year. And we don't just start working on that grad application in the senior year. We start in whenever you want or have an idea that I might want to ask these questions beyond undergrad, or I want to go into, there are other students who want to go and take the LSAT, and I want to do that because they've been in gender studies, they've asked these kinds of questions, done this type of organizing. Now they want to be the people who go and make policies for folks that are underrepresented or people don't think about, what my young children need. We ask questions about neurodivergency and accessibility in gender studies, different abilities, all types of things and inquiries that you can do in gender studies, and you can take that project wherever you want to. We have students who like to do social media campaigns. We help you think about your community, your digital communities, how to do that type of leadership well as well, or organizing well as well. The question about double majors that came through, you asked about whether or not it's common for someone to combine sciences and humanities. It is. It's very common. And they might combine those and do a minor. So I have students who are doing bio, gender studies, and they might also top that off with like an art studio, something. The way it's supported is because we sort of understand here that students are working across the disciplines. We also talk as advisors. So when we have what's called advising week, that's a week we reserve for it. We know that we're talking not just to students about what types of classes you'll need to take to meet all of your different interests to get the degrees and minors that you want, but we are also your team. So you have a team over in the sciences, a team over in art, a team. We're talking together to make sure that we can all support you, because you may be taking a class that may count for your gender studies credit, and it counts for your art or your science credit in some sort of way, because some of our classes are also what's called cross-listed. So we're in constant community among each other as faculty as well, to make sure that we can support you to get the degrees and the minors that you might want here.
Thank you so much, Mother Liz, for sharing so much about not only gender studies, but also again, the wraparound community for our Skidmore students. Let me tell you, I know it is 8:01 Eastern Time right now. This is such a great conversation. I have to share, and for our audience here, you all have submitted over 130 questions throughout the last hour. So we've done our absolute best to encapsulate as much as possible. And we've also provided, especially for those of you who have specific questions, for our four fabulous faculty panelists, their email addresses are located for you in the chat. If you're not able to grab it, they're also available on our Skidmore website. One last rapid fire question, because this is one that I did see come through as well. What is one piece of advice that you would give to majority who are high school seniors who may be pursuing a gap year? We also have some parents and guardians in the group. What piece of advice would you give them on February 3rd, 2026? Rapid fire.
I think if you have a clear idea of what you want to do during that gap year, that's great because you're going to get some maturity before you come to school. And that's fantastic. I think if what you're doing is avoiding making that decision, then you should make the decision and come to school because basically you're gonna get lost in the path based on, what I have seen and what I have done myself.
I would say expect to see unexpected things. Expect to be surprised. I think that's one sort of trend that I've seen with students during my time at Skidmore is that they come in and they might be expecting one thing and then they learn about something that they didn't even know about existed. You might be taking a course in a discipline that was not covered in high school, for example. Or you might learn about career opportunities that you had never thought of before. So expect to learn about unexpected paths that you might go down.
That's right. It's rapid fire. Um, Make this experience for what you want it to be, and know that it does not have to be finite. It is in process. So whatever button you click that day, or whatever decision you make, it is not finite. So come on, we're excited to meet you. If you do come, do know that even that doesn't have to be finite. You get to decide what you want this to be. So if you take it, gap year, if you come, you get to decide what this is for you. So I guess if I had to leave you with something, you get to define and tell the story for yourself of what this will be on February 3rd. It's really up to you. And I'm excited for however you choose, whatever you choose, and however you write that narrative.
I would say be willing to learn no matter what happens. Approach it with an open mind and always trying to think, what can I learn from A or B or whatever path you decide to pursue.
All good sound life advice in so many different ways. I appreciate you all so deeply. And I also appreciate you all for giving us an extra 5 minutes for such a robust conversation. I feel like we could go on forever, but we are not. So again, I want to say thank you all so much for spending your time with us. Again, I know some of you all are in the wee hours of the morning on February 4th already, and some of you are a little bit further behind, but we appreciate your time. I have included in the chat here a link to continue to stay engaged with us. You're going to hear from faculty members representing the health professions, to environmental science and studies, to religious studies, to the arts. And so the conversation does not stop here in that regard. And again, if you have questions that were unanswered today, please email us at admissions@skidmore.edu, and we will be happy to respond to you as soon as we can. Without further ado, I'm going to give a huge round of applause to our fabulous panelists here who have dedicated their time, and hopefully we'll be able to see you all soon. Take good care, everyone.